This video is brought to you by sharks. Literal sharks. Don't know what they want since they're just big fish, but hey, sharks are pretty cool. Wait, no. This video is actually brought to you by Surfshark, which actually makes a whole lot more sense. I'm very sorry for the bad joke, but look, if you're online, you need a VPN. And, I mean, you are online right now. Hope that wasn't a spoiler for you. Surfshark is a well-known name for a reason. They're going to keep your data encrypted and safe. That includes passwords, credit card numbers, and location. They can virtually set you up anywhere in the world. And that's also coming with some fun perks, because not only does that keep you safe online, it gives you access to your favorite streaming services offerings in other countries, because yes, that is country specific. This is going to save you a bundle while giving you access to a ton of other media libraries. And it's really easy to use. You just download it, click a location, and you're good to go. And one Surfshark account can be used on an unlimited amount of devices. That includes phones, PCs, consoles, smart TVs, plenty of others. And on top of that, they give you options for two-factor authentication, different blockers, 24/7 support, and it all comes at a great price. Made even better thanks to my offer code APOLOGIST, which you can use on their website, or you can just click my link in the description, and that will get you 83% off and 3 extra free months. Thanks again to Surfshark for supporting the video, and thank you for checking out the ad, and let's get on with it. Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading. We are right in the middle of the Eggperial City story, and truth be told, there isn't too much left to cover in terms of the plot itself, but today I do want to focus on one particular character, that being Shadow the Hedgehog. We are finally seeing his return in the IDW story, and a lot of people have been wondering how he would be represented this time around. Has Sega taken any feedback from the community? Have they improved anything? I guess we'll have to see. Issue 59 sees the return of Evan Stanley as lead writer. I feel like Evan and Ian have been playing hot potato with the Eggperial City story stuff, but you're not going to notice too much of a difference. They're very good at keeping the tone together. We've got Adam Bryce Thomas on art, Valentina Pinto on colors, Sean Lee on letters, with editors Riley Farmer and David Mariette. Now, IDW is not short of incredible Sonic art. I've been so thoroughly impressed with pretty much all of it, but one cover got a little extra special attention because Natalie Haynes went ahead and made a shadow painting. Not a digital painting, which again is already impressive, but this is traditional acrylic work based off Renaissance paintings, one specifically being the Fallen Angel. And I don't know if this is representing any other bits of art, having all these shadow androids hold up Shadow while all of the fake emerald crystals start to swarm around him from above. It's really cool. Looks like they're all coming up to trap him in there. I don't know. It's amazing. There could be other pieces there. I desperately want to do more art history after just seeing this one piece. This is incredible work. And yes, as people have already pointed out, and like I've pointed out on my Minecraft video, there is another Christian painting reference featuring Shadow the Hedgehog. And then, hey, you consider that Jesus fish in Sonic R Christianity canon to Sonic?
I've got good news for you.
The issue picks up in the aftermath of Team Dark's assault on a wave of badniks, with Shadow and Rouge standing atop a pile of broken robots, with Omega standing beside it with the smoking gauntlet gun. Team Dark gives, I suppose, what you would call a greeting to Sonic and Tails as a new wave of badniks begins to prepare another assault, which is quickly demolished by Omega. I love that they get 2 panels on the first page and then they're just taken care of in the background. Sonic and Shadow do their usual flirting, with Sonic saying he's flattered that they came to rescue little old me, but as they can see, they're a bit late to the party. He says this as Amy, Silver, and Blaze arrive on the scene behind them. Shadow doesn't know what Sonic is talking about and doesn't care, and Rouge catches them up to speed. And I love this picture of her arm around the hedgehog. Twitter lost their minds a little bit at this. Turns out she called Shadow and Omega to see what they could do about this big, brand new, problematic city, which Omega was fine with because the more that Eggman concentrates his forces, that gives him more robots to destroy. Adam does so much storytelling with his artwork as we see Amy jump between Sonic and Rouge, shoving the hedgehog aside and leering at the bat. She does know the bat. She is a good person, but she is always looking out for number 1, saying that's awfully altruistic for Rouge. And Rouge just smirks, saying, yeah, it is, isn't it? And if she just so happens to find anything interesting in Eggman's vaults, she intends to reward her good behavior handsomely. But for whatever reason, Team Dark is there. Silver and Tails are just happy to have reinforcements. they can all team up together to take down Eggman. But Shadow isn't even a part of the conversation. He's been walking away for a minute now, and Rouge says no hard feelings, but the rest of the heroes would just slow them down. But Omega says he will attempt not to hit any of them in his crossfire. So hey, at least he's growing a little bit more polite from previous interactions. Sonic sneers, but I think he's only sneering at Rouge because he doesn't like being inferred as slow. But before the two groups can part ways, Eggman's voice rings out over the loudspeaker from his central tower. And it's been a while since we had a proper, big, grandiose introduction to one of his evil creations. And he tells us what we already know. This is his City of Tomorrow, a self-replicating, self-repairing metropolis unlike anything the world has ever seen. And he goads everyone to go ahead and try to destroy the city. For every building they level, a dozen more will rise to take its place. And of course, he says that this is a special occasion, so it calls for a surprise. Something he's been holding on to for quite a while. And we get some of those giant fish badniks opening up their ports to reveal Shadow Androids. We have seen them in the comics before, but they were not multicolored like this. It's really cool to see them again. And I do love the extra touch of the multiplayer colors. Not only is it a fun callback, but this does also help differentiate them on the battlefield. And I also think it helps solidify that Shadow the Hedgehog is the only Shadow the Hedgehog. That was a whole thing during that game, and I still see fans speculate on whether or not he's the real one to this day. And at least for IDW, I think this helps show that Shadow is indeed Shadow. But anyway, we turn our attention to Eggman, who is watching the show below, high up in his tower, bragging that making Shadow robots was a bit of brilliance. Sonic's gonna regret coming back here, all this other stuff. But more importantly, we see that he is being spied on by Lanolin, Tangle, and Whisper, who, if you forgot, were somehow transported into an intangible dimension so they can just freely move around the city undetected. Whisper and Lanolin begin to sneakily move around the Doctor while his back is turned, but Tangle just walks right up to Metal Sonic and starts waving her hand through him. A stressed out Lanolin tells Tangle to get down, and reasonably, Tangle asks why. Nobody can see them, they're fine. So Lanolin quickly gives up trying to do this stealthily, and they begin to look around the room, but unfortunately Whisper catches the carnage below, which triggers a bit of trauma for the poor wolf. If you don't recall from the Tangle and Whisper miniseries, it was revealed that the original Diamond Cutters, her first team, were all taken out by Shadow Androids. That was the only other time we had seen them in the IDW story. And ever since they confirmed that the androids were a part of this canon, which is or isn't part of the game canon, just depending on the month we're talking about this, it was only a matter of time before they showed back up. Whisper begins to break down, but Tangle is there to support her and help her through all of this, saying that she will not lose another team. They're going to figure this out. But while they're having a little support group up at the top of the tower, down below we see our heroes take on not only the Shadow Androids, but the other badniks as well. What I find interesting, it seems that Sonic and Tails have never encountered Shadow Androids before. I don't completely remember how the Shadow game played out, but I do know that he teamed up with heroes on each level. So anyone who's played that game recently or has a little bit better memory than me, let me know if Sonic had encountered Shadow Androids in that game, because if he didn't, that's an interesting little touch. Anyway, these androids are proven to be quite the problem. They're unaffected by the fire abilities of Blaze. Amy's Pico Hammer doesn't seem to do much to them. They're not given too many other options. So Sonic has Silver make a ramp out of the ground, and he grabs a hold of his friends and launches off, clearing some space between the heroes and the androids. They head towards Team Dark, seeing if they'll have any better luck teaming up with that crew. But it looks like Team Dark's not having a whole lot of luck either. Omega's blasting them with everything he has, but they don't seem to be staying down. And Shadow says that the Doctor is trying to overwhelm them with numbers, but there's no strategy to the androids' movement. They're easily manipulated. So all they have to do is get into a better position to take them out. Now this might not seem like much, but this is a massive, massive difference from what we saw in the Metal Virus. And I think it's stuff like this that fans missed. We're seeing a Shadow playing things much smarter when it comes to battle. But that grumpy arrogance is still well and alive, as we see Sonic and Amy arrive on the scene as they're launched by Blaze, taking out the two androids in front of Shadow. And Sonic says, "You got some cousins you never told us about?" And Shadow just sneers, saying that these cheap copies don't deserve to wear his face. I love it. All together, they're doing a better job of handling the androids, and Amy asks Shadow if he even knows what these robots are. Shadow says hardly, but he knows that they are cheap copies made by Dr. Eggman, and Eggy's going to pay dearly for the insult. I do believe that this is indeed confirming certain plot points from that game. I like these little attentions to detail. But anyway, even with the heroes all teamed up here, we're still having a lot of problems with these androids as Omega is quickly overrun by them. And the usually calm and in control Rouge is looking a bit worried for her robot friend, saying to Shadow that now would be a great time to use those fancy powers of his. And they confirm here, which I'm thankful for, that it's impossible for Shadow to perform chaos control without an emerald. Or at least right now he doesn't seem to have the energy to perform it without an emerald. Tails points out that the giant crystals surrounding the city are generated chaos energy. Shadow might be able to use that, but Shadow senses that the energy is distorted. They're fake emeralds, and he hates to stoop to using such a pale substitute, but it'll get the job done. So tapping into the power of the city itself, he uses chaos control and launches around the battlefield, wrecking the hell out of his cheap copies. And you could tell Adam had a lot of fun with all of this action. It just goes wild. In one beautiful montage of a page, Shadow takes out all of the robots. And once he's done, he stands there calmly saying much better as body parts fall from the sky. Everybody cheers him on, or at least Tails, Amy, and Silver do. Blaze just looks shocked. I think this is the first time she's actually seen Shadow tap into all of his power. Rouge just flutters there, smirking. She's well aware of how capable her friend and co-worker is. And Sonic just looks kind of bored and unimpressed, saying maybe I should give it a try. I don't think he's used to not being in the spotlight. It's adorable. But Shadow's not done yet. But before he can do whatever he was trying to do, something is off. His entire body begins to shake, and another one of the fake Chaos Emeralds shoots out from the ground below. Something is happening, and Shadow says it's too much, and then lets out a scream as energy bursts out of him, causing even more of the fake emeralds to erupt, destroying much of the city around it. And all any of the heroes can do is run for their lives. Up in the tower, things are shaking and going to crap, but Eggman doesn't seem too worried about it. More irritated than anything, saying of course Shadow would cause trouble. We see on the screen the words emergency limiter activated. We're not quite sure what that is just yet, and neither are the heroes, who are standing from a distance on top of a roof, watching more and more of these emeralds shoot out from the ground below. But it looks like they're finally calming down. Amy asks what the heck that was, and Tails says it was some sort of runaway feedback loop, but he's not sure if that was a security measure or a design flaw. And Sonic turns his head towards Rouge, saying that they're tough. Maybe the toughest. I do love the little details here. I'm not sure just how much any of these characters are allowed to emote, but that does feel very in line for Rouge. Does give some layer to her character. She's not just one thing, but it's still very important for her to remain composed, and she's doing her very best to be just that. And it's so subtly shown off in these little touches of the script and of course the art. There's a little white line in her eyeball, and I wonder if that's supposed to represent watering eyes and tears that she's trying to suppress. It's very subtle. I just love it. And we have Blaze and Silver backing up the positivity, saying that they're going to figure a way to save them. And Rouge just smirks, saying the way you stay so chipper is truly a wonder, Blue. And Sonic just smirks, saying I'm just looking forward to seeing the look on Shadow's face when we rescue his sorry butt. We turn our attention back to the central tower, where it seems the emergency backup power has booted the lights and computer systems back up. Eggy says the power's been restored, the Ignet towers are rebooting, and the Undercity security only had a momentary outage. But he's frustrated because he can't get a single badnik to confirm the location of Sonic and pals. They will explain exactly what happened and how Eggman managed to stop his city from falling apart in the next issue, but with the limited knowledge they have on hand, Lanolin comes up with a plan, saying that power surge nearly crippled the entire city, and if they could somehow trigger another one, a bigger one, and somehow stop Eggy from throttling it, that would take out the Eggperial city. But before they can figure out how to exactly do all of that, something begins happening to the three ladies, reappearing right in front of Dr. Eggman. Eggy remains unfazed and looks a little terrifying, saying, I've seen you two before, and it looks like you ran into my spatial displacement trap, enjoying the time left helpless and invisible, hey? So we do get a name for whatever that flying portal was. And being a good classic villain that he is, Eggman explains that those spatial traps were just early models. But not to worry, because he has the latest, greatest versions right here, as the strange multi-sided die just appears out of nowhere and then opens up, revealing a green portal inside. And Eggman says a trip through one of these should scatter your atoms into oblivion. Whisper tries to get a shot off with her Wispin, but Eggman just chuckles, saying, "My traps separated you and your precious Wispin from normal space. You can't touch me," as we see a shot just go right through him. As one of the new traps powers up with its plates surrounding Whisper and dispersing her into a portal. Tangle attempts to run towards her aid, but to no avail, and nearly gets caught in a trap herself until she's shoved out of the way by Lanolin, who instead gets caught in the spatial trap. Turning towards Tangle, saying, "Find the others, tell them what to do," before her atoms too are scattered across space. Now by herself and backed into a corner, the portal plates begin to move on to Tangle. But as she tries to lean up against the window, she notices that she passes right through. As Whisper had just confirmed, they are indeed visible, but they're still intangible. So, with nowhere else to go, Tangle leaps through the window, plummeting towards the city below. And that is where issue 59 ends. Now, there was a lot of conversation surrounding this issue leading up to its release and then when it did come out. Largely because of Shadow the Hedgehog. Anytime he shows up anywhere, you better believe you're going to have a large section of the Sonic fanbase talking about it. He's an incredibly important character to fans of the adventure games, and they take his characterization very, very seriously. Last time we had a big chunky talk about him, it was during the Metal Virus arc, where we saw him getting himself taken out fairly quickly, which didn't sit right for a lot of people. He did show back up not too long after that during the Chow Race storyline, where it looked like they were starting to get him back on track, and I think here we finally see a Shadow that is a little bit more familiar to that part of the fan base. I don't know if he's still considered a bit too grumpy to some fans. I don't really care. Like I've said 1,000 times, I like a bit of edge to the Edgehog. I like a bit of aggression and arrogance. He did find the Shadow androids incredibly offensive, but he did keep a cool head through all of this, working with his team and trying to figure out the best strategy to take these suckers down, and was still open to suggestion from Tails when he recommended using the giant fake emeralds. I think in previous iterations of the character, we might have seen him just scoff at the idea and just charge in and get himself really hurt. And yeah, I can understand how fans would feel that's just a cheap cop-out. I think everybody understands that Shadow is overpowered, but if Sega is going to limit how often you can use him, or if the storytellers need to limit him because, again, he's way too powerful and you need to remove him from the board, then at least do it with a bit of grace and creativity. It's incredibly frustrating watching a character act out of character for the sake of the plot. And again, while I do feel this Shadow is still very much the same character we have seen throughout the entire run of IDW, I do think these little appearances of him since the Metal Virus has shown a bit of growth, so it doesn't betray those stories. And now, in the Eggperial City story, we see something far more acceptable. I thought this was really cool. It finally allowed him to flex his awesome powers. It showed a much more interesting dynamic between him and all of these other characters, and it also showed Team Dark actually being on the same page. It's nice to see that at least Rouge deeply loves these guys, and I think just seeing not only the Shadow androids, but multiplayer colors on the Shadow androids show that there is a deep love for that particular part of the franchise. Something that a lot of people consider to be the absolute worst Sonic has ever been. There's still potential for great stories and great characters, and I'm happy to see them utilize it here. And yeah, I imagine a lot of fans are still frustrated that we only got a brief glimpse of Shadow. I still think they made great use of the little time he had on the stage. And don't worry, because we will see him do something else really cool before the end of this story. But that is going to do it for today's episode. Next time, we're going to wrap up the story of the Eggperial City. I won't make you wait too long, but if you're curious and you do want to support these stories and these creators, like I keep saying, go check out the book. It's still one of the greatest sources of official Sonic storytelling selling today. Before we wrap it up, I do have to thank the amazing patrons who help support the channel, and these wild weirdos who spend a little bit extra so they can hear me say their name at the end of videos, who include Kyle Winter, Cyrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan Sonic 2 Blue, John, Josh Strider, Monroe Android, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Ginger Bob, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trap, Meekers, Dun Dun, quote, Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Jeremy Singer, Mr. Boo J, Sam Webster, Fishflop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Haley, Dr. SP, here is your PSA, always follow fire safety protocols, they exist for a reason, isn't that right? No, come on. Wildfires are a big scary thing, SP, trust me, I live in Oregon, that's a yearly danger over here, but also thank you for the money. Cecil the Glade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Placonica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, Lederick, David 20 covering my face at the embarrassment of misspelling Nick last video. Sorry about that. Also, hi Nicholas. Hi David. Oh my god, I love reading these names. Jimmy Duke STR, The Lumberjack, NBTV, Trash Baphomet, Autumn from Twitter.com, Jin Seotame, Bowden, I'm not reading that. Bowden, I've been reading I'm not reading that like 4 times now. Grayson Conager, Spades, The Nocturne, Ken K, aka Kenji Kobane, aka The Heavy Metal Hustler, aka Hi Mom, I'm on the YouTubes. P.S. Only Nick has to read this. Wow! I never should have made this a Patreon perk. I'm never gonna get through this list. Ven 101, Paxton Bisbee, Sindarin 7, Haruspecs, 3 Rule 4, Twilord. Did you know the skin on your elbow is called a weenus? Is that true? That can't be true. Hang on, we're gonna look that up. Hang on. Weenus or Wenus is a slang word for the excess or loose skin at the joint of one's elbow, which is technically referred to as the olecranal skin. Well, it's in Merriam-Webster. It has a whole article? Why does it have a whole article? That's interesting. Okay, so it began circulating the internet in the aughts. The forearm, upper arm, name is based on the... Okay, I can't say that part. I can't do any of that. I already feel like I'm gonna get flagged for saying weenus. Anyway, Paisley, Eric Delgado, Kodinsky, Mo Art, Sayonara Robocop, Crimson Rose, Give Up Your Children, Separate, Sonic P.A.J., Municent, Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Makuta of Salt, Gleam the Anomaly, Alexander Watson, Calais Presley, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, Sharif Pi, The Lex, the most powerful ship in the 2 universes, Native Nerd 27, Kaido Prower, Swift Cannon, Spearmint, Kimetra's Prower, Kim. Can I just call you Kim? I'm going to call you Kim. Omega Man 21, Penn Adelaide, Other Envelope, Broski, and the Phantomist. Well, that was quite the journey, wasn't it? Alright, that's going to do it for today. If any of you guys are in the Philly area for TMG, come say hi. Me and the Sunset Boys outside a pup who is dead now, sorry, will be there. I'll be wearing my leather jacket with the little green stripes because I'm desperate for attention, even in sweltering summer heat. So until then, toot toot, Sonic Warriors.